According to someone in the know, the deal with Dakota Jordan is far from over. We are the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. The SEC Insider Hit this morning is brought to you by the Purple Mattress from any of the Muskelly sleep stores in Mississippi. The one, the only Purple Mattress with the purple grid from any of the Muskelly sleep stores. Groundbreaking, no pressure. Gel technology is the star of every Purple Mattress, powered by Muskelly Furniture and any of their Muskelly sleep stores. We welcome in our friend Tom Luginbill, head of recruiting ESPN, national college football analyst. Lugs joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Tom Luginbill, let's start with Austin Simmons. He reclassifies from 2025 to 2023 and enrolling at Ole Miss this summer. I think you're missing out on way too much high school football development, and you learn through the live bullets, not through 7-on-7 and practicing, because you can't replicate it regardless. What are your thoughts on Austin Simmons as a player and reclassifying?
Well, as a player, I think he's supremely talented. He's a big, tall, left-handed kid with serious arm talent. I mean, he can drive the ball vertically. The ball carries, it finishes. I mean, he's really physically advanced. And I'll say this: I applaud and I admire the work that the young man has put in academically. I mean, to take those steps to get that far ahead means while his buddies are out goofing around and playing video games, he's hitting the books, man. So like that part of it, I appreciate it. Obviously, the kid's got his head screwed on straight. I've never had an issue with reclassification, particularly if you're going to be a mid-year enrollee and you're likely going to be expected to play right away. But skipping 2 classes, I just don't know how healthy that is. I know he's talented, but no matter how talented you are at the high school level, you got to play, and you're not getting the necessary game reps. You're developing your mind. You're not developing, emotionally and from a maturity standpoint. And then physically, there's only so many things you can do in shirts and shorts, and he's not going to be in a position to where he's likely going to be climbing the depth chart early. And so, that's the only part I don't like about it. And I got to be honest with you, I don't know if I've ever seen it, at least not in my, little over 18 years at ESPN of seeing somebody make this type of jump. But I just think playing is really important. And, it's just that part of it to me is bothersome.
Yeah, you're looking at least 2 years without playing any football. Hadn't really, played last year. Was injured on and off in 9th grade, and he's going to try his hand at baseball. None of that lines up to me to miss that. Yeah, all right, let's just go low. Let's say he plays 12 games his junior year and 12 games his senior year. You're missing out on 24 starts against live action and game reps. You just can't get that anywhere else, Tom.
No, you can't, and that's the downside in all of this. And but that's the choice that he's made. And like I said, I admire the academic side of it, the prowess on that side, what he's done to do the work to put himself in position here. But to maximize and develop as an actual player, you got to play to do that.
Tom Luginbill on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line, kind enough to move up a little bit for us today and talk recruiting. He's been doing this for 18 years with ESPN. Tell me, J.J. Harrell, Mississippi State had a big day for Arnett yesterday. They landed 3 guys in the state of Mississippi. Let's start with J.J. Harrell. Tell me about him as a player.
Two-way guy. I think that, one of the things that I've noticed, and if you look at J.J. and some other guys in their class that we have listed as athletes, in the sense that we're not quite sure where they're going to project yet. They could be on defense at corner. They could be on offense at wide receiver. And that's a good problem to have because you've got positional versatility, gives coaches options, and you can kind of plug and play where your roster most needs an athlete that's capable of playing multiple positions. So I think with JJ, he's probably going to be a guy that plays on defense. I mean, I think, and that's where the majority of the reps and the snaps that we've seen of him on film have come. But the ball skills are there to play on offense. And so he's got enough of that. I also think he's got some return capability in the kicking game, which is obviously makes you very valuable.
Tom Luginbill with ESPN on the Out of Bounds show. All right, Braylon Burnside, athlete out of Starkville, Mississippi, the reigning 6A state champs.
Yeah, that's the highest graded kid we have in their class right now. We also have him in the athlete category. Offensively, I think he's equally as good as he could be on defense. I think it's more of a what is the need and where does the kid want to play, and or at least where does the kid want to start out. And then you let him do that. And if you have to make a move, you make a move. But he is such a good athlete. I mean, he's one of those kids. I think you could put him at quarterback, you could put him at running back, you could put him at wide receiver, you could play him at corner. I think he's probably a better fit at safety, just given his physical dimensions, if you were to play on that side of the ball. But one of those kids that literally could play just about every skill position on the field.
And P.J. Woodland, athlete out of Oak Grove, another powerhouse, 6A. I guess now we're going to 7A here in the state, but they've won it several times and produced some big-time players. What does Tom Luginbill know about P.J. Woodland?
So he's a high-end 3-star guy for us. What I mean by that is he's at the top of the 3-star scale, approaching the lower end of the 4-star scale. We're actually going to project him at corner. I think he's got the build for it. He's got the temperament for it. Really, really good feet, really athletic. Not near as big as JJ or Braylon is in terms of physical stature. Now, that doesn't mean that he's not going to have some physical development that's going to come. He certainly is. He's only about 160 pounds right now, standing at 5'11". So I do think he'll play on defense. That's where we're going to project him.
Okay. This class is pretty darn good coming out of the state of Mississippi. Do you and your team agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at, three of the top 4 kids in Mississippi State's class are of their highest graded guys, which would be in our 4-star range, are out of the state of Mississippi. And then, when you look at Ole Miss, they've done the same thing. Ole Miss has dipped into Louisiana a little bit, but the vast majority of the class in the upper tier prospects, those that would be in our ESPN 300, are in-state kids.
Okay. Out of Bounds, brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. He is Tom Luginbill on 105.9 The Zone ESPN. Let's go to Tuscaloosa's Travaris Banks. He's a safety out of T-Town, and he committed to Ole Miss a few days ago. Tom?
Yeah, I actually think he could play corner, and he is huge. I mean, he's a tall 6'2", 200 pounds. It's that measurable standard that everybody's looking for on that side of the ball. I think to start him off at corner is probably the play, and then you can always move him inside because you just can't you can't substitute for that length. You can't compensate for having that type of size on the outside. And even if you were playing, let's just say, in a boundary corner role, meaning that you're on the short side of the field, you're a little protected with an over-the-top safety. You're not having to be out there all by yourself where your size could be used against you. That's kind of how I see him fitting in at the next level.
I didn't hit you with this name, so you can pass, but you may know something on him. Kiffin's quarterback right now in this class.
Damon Williams?
Yes, out of Arizona.
Yeah. Really, really good player, really good athlete, undersized, very undersized. But he's an exciting, dynamic kid. Like, he's one of those guys that can run around, create plays, pull a rabbit out of the hat. He's just not going to wow you physically. Like Austin Simmons, he walks through the door. He walks through your doorway. Them shoulders are going to fill out the doorway. He's tall. He's got some stature to his physique, whereas Damon looks like a wide receiver.
Okay. So I'm looking at roughly he's 5'10", 175 to 180, according to a couple of these reports. Okay.
Yep. We have him at 5'11". That's around there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. It's amazing, isn't it? Wow, times have changed. You got all these guys coming out, and if they're athletic and can sling it at 5'10", 5'11", they can play
Yeah.
at any number of
It's called
schools.
the spread offense and the shotgun. That's what it is.
Yeah, yeah. And it makes the game more fun. I understand some of the negative stuff on it, but it definitely makes the game a lot more fun. Tom Luginbill on the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. All right, I want to switch gears to. We talked to you about Bryce Young last spring and the NFL, and there's this big thing around quarterbacks who come from the super, super duper elite programs and the fact that they don't have to elevate people around them. Not near like some of the other guys that are drafted and seem to work. I mean, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Dak, Aaron Rodgers. I could go Eli Manning. I could go on and on. These guys didn't play in fact, if you look at Drew Brees, if you look at the overwhelming majority of them, granted, there's only 3 or 4 elite programs, so you can run the numbers either way, and I get that. So Bama, we're still kind of waiting on Tua, and Mike McDaniel, I think, is a little genius. So if he can get it out of him, he can make him as good as he can be. But Mac Jones and A.J. McCarron and those dudes don't really scare you. With his physique and his stature, even though he's phenomenal as far as arm talent and so on, are you betting that this guy makes it? And he doesn't have to be great, but becomes a good NFL quarterback? Are you still a lot of wait and see? Because even though they haven't been dominant his 2 years as a starter, they've been really good. They're always playing downhill. Your thoughts?
Yeah, and you're referencing Bryce Young here?
Yes.
Yeah. So, listen, I think with last year's team and a lot of question marks around him, I thought as a player he was better than he was the Heisman year because he had to do so much more. He had to compensate for so many deficiencies that we don't necessarily see an Alabama team have. Now, and I think I've shared this with you before, when a guy who's coached Tom Brady sits in the room and looks you in the eye and tells you that Bryce Young's the smartest football player he's ever coached, that tells you something, all right? And it tells you about his work ethic. It tells you about his habits. It tells you about his football IQ, his instincts, all of those sorts of things that will lead me to believe that barring injury, those are things that we can't foresee, he will be remarkably successful because he'll be self-made. There will not be somebody that will outwork him. There will not be somebody that will outstudy him. He will be prepared every time he takes the field. Now, is his stature concerning? Not so much from a height perspective to me, but more from a weight perspective. But he has this uncanny ability within the pocket and even without to avoid taking direct shots. It's very difficult to hit him. It's very difficult unless he's got a free rusher coming at him that he doesn't see and there's a bust up front. He rarely ever gets hit. And so he's just really savvy and smart about that stuff. But I think a lot of it has to do with how do you scheme him up, right? What are his comfortable areas? Where are his strengths? And let's devise the scheme around that. And you've heard me say that multiple times. I think that's where Andy Reid deserves so much credit. You're talking about a guy who spent the last 40-plus years coaching West Coast offense only. That's all he knew. That's all he was. That's all he did. And then all of a sudden, he starts looking at this guy, Patrick Mahomes, and starts looking at how college kids are now being developed. And he's like, we can't do this anymore. We've got to now build this. And if you look at the Chiefs, they look like a college team. When you watch them, they look exactly like a college team. And I think that with Bryce Young, that's the same thing that has to happen. Is you've got to tailor things towards him. But I think all of the intangible traits, all of the things in the boxes that you try to check, he's got all of them.
Okay. All right. Speaking of tailoring around the quarterback, now that Sean Payton and Russell Wilson are paired together, and you met Sean as a kid through your dad.
Mm-hmm.
And he tailored everything around Drew Brees, and he did it really, really well. Because not every coach, I don't think, could do that, Tom.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
okay, so now he's got Russell, and he may be on the back nine, but it's not like he can't still move and play. So, what are your when you think about what Russell did at NC State, Wisconsin, but what Pete Carroll did and didn't do with Russell with the Seahawks, what are your expectations for Sean Payton and Russell Wilson in Denver?
Well, listen, I think Russell's one of those guys that probably was asked to do something last year that might have been impossible, because while everybody's placing blame on him, nobody's actually looking at their roster and going, well, wait a minute, how good are these guys? Right? It's not just Russell Wilson. It's the whole entire roster. So, yeah, do you got to get Russell playing good football? Yes. And I think that Sean Payton will do that. He coaches up quarterbacks. He grooms quarterbacks well. There's going to be familiarity with the West Coast offense from Russell already. So I think there will be, like, from a terminology perspective, an approach perspective, they will be on the same page. I think the question is more of, what are the weapons around him, and are they giving him some of the tools to be able to flourish? And so to say, what do I expect? I expect him to be better than he was a year ago, but I think the team needs to be better too. I think the supporting cast around Russell needs to step up, and they need to find some go-to guys.
Okay. When you mentioned, the fact that Andy Reid and so many coaches are taking, what's happening in college and incorporating it into, and a lot of this was driven by Mike Leach going to the Oklahoma finally, and I think getting to a blue blood program, and things started to, move around a little bit more. We went from Power Eye to throwing it around. There were some others, as you well know, and we've discussed them with you over the years.
Look at Doug Peterson in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah,
he's made the same adjustment. He made the same adjustment when he was at Philadelphia. I mean, those guys are doing. I mean, look at what Philly's doing now with Jalen Hurts. I mean, Jalen Hurts isn't going to play in a multiple pro style scheme. That's not what he does. So don't make him do it, right?
So is Kyle Shanahan? I mean, how impressed are you with him? I mean, everybody's talking about him, he and McVay, but Shanahan, I know McVay has the big ring. I think Shanahan's even better. You look at what he's had at quarterback the last 5 or 6 years, it's a revolving door, it's injuries, and it's darn sure not an elite guy, much less probably a second-tier guy, even when Garoppolo was healthy. And then what he does as far as incorporating the run game. But everybody's buzzing about Shanahan, McVay, LaFleur, and McDaniel. Are you as impressed with Kyle Shanahan as others?
Yeah, I am. I think he's really good in the run game. I think that everything's based off of that. They're a heavy play action team, which helps the quarterback, regardless of who it is. But they are a really, really good offense. But it's really the run game that makes them go, and everything else comes off of that. But I think it's no different than anything else, whether it's at the high school level, collegiate level, and the professional level. Do you have players? I mean, there was a time, I don't know if you recall this, but there was a time when LaFleur, McVay, and Shanahan were all on the Washington Commanders coaching staff.
Yeah.
I want to say it was like 2013 or whatever. They were 3-13. The team was 3-13. So you got to, I mean, yeah, you can be a good coach and you want to, be able to scheme people up and do all the X's and O's stuff, but you got to have players, right? And I think that these guys have found themselves and put themselves in a position where they went out and they worked either through the draft or through player evaluation in free agency to improve their football team.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you become a better coach when you got better players around you. I mean, there's no secret to that. I mean, I look at my man Brian Greasy, who I did 3 years of television with, and people are completely glossing over the job that he had to do this last fall as the quarterbacks coach at San Francisco. I mean, what a remarkable job of managing and tutoring and bringing along a young
Brock
quarterback
Purdy?
that nobody thought. Yeah. I mean, he's Brock Purdy's coach, and so
Wow.
you're sitting there going, you're sitting there saying, okay, well, sometimes one falls in your lap, and then you have a bad set of circumstances. How do we make the most out of it? And I think if you look at what Kyle Shanahan and Brian Griese did, I mean, that's coaching. I mean, that's sitting there going, all right. Now, I don't listen. If you sat them both in a room and looked them dead in the eye and say, hey, did you guys expect this out of Brock Purdy? If they said yes, they'd be lying to you. so they know.
Sure.
But you know what? Sometimes that's how it happens. Sometimes you fall into one and it's by accident, and then the thing ends up playing out in a certain way, and poof, everything kind of falls into place. I mean, you look at that playoff game last year. What a game that would have been if Brock Purdy hadn't been hurt.
Yeah, no,
because they were so hot. I mean, they were so hot offensively. They couldn't do wrong. It was crazy.
What? I didn't know that Brian Griese was the QB coach.
You didn't know that?
No, dude. You just, it's like an epiphany this morning on the Out of Bounds show because of Tom Luginbill. This is so cool. I just looked it up. I mean, this guy plays for a while. He's in broadcasting, like you said, and he just jumps. Shanahan puts him in there, and it obviously works. How does that happen? Wow.
Well, Kyle and Griese had been together at either Chicago or Tampa, the latter part of Brian's career, and then obviously very, very like-minded. The one thing about Brian, like Brian is extremely intelligent.
Okay.
Extremely intelligent, and so he's probably on that same aptitude level as Kyle Shanahan is. Is why they're very like-minded.
Wow. And you worked with him for a few years?
Yeah, for 3 years. My first 3 years as a field analyst, when we kind of took it and made it permanent, it was me, Brian, and Dave Pash. And then after that, it was me, Greg McElroy, and Dave Pash for 4 years. And
right.
Then then the COVID year happened, and then the last 2 years, then me, Dave Pash, and Dusty DeVorchak.
Yeah, I like Pash. I really do.
He's always the best.
Talented guy. All right, dude, I just threw you like several curveballs. You were still ripping doubles. I went all over the place from Mississippi high school recruiting to Kyle Shanahan, and you didn't miss a beat, and I don't even know if you've had a cup of coffee this morning. So fist pump, and appreciate you, and we'll talk soon, okay?
You bet, man. Take care.
All right, Tom Luginbill, national college football analyst with the ESPN. I had no idea. Brian Griese, QB coach for the 49ers. Wow, we're giving away. Let's go ahead and give away 4 pairs of tickets to the M Braves Wednesday through Sunday right now via the text line. Ag Up Equipment text line 601-885-3776. First 4 people that text Braves or anything that has to do with the M Braves or the Atlanta Braves, you get them. Giving away 4 pairs of tickets. You get to pick the day. Wednesday through Sunday. Man, for a second there, I didn't know if it was Wednesday. Dakota Jordan's in the portal. It is not over for Mississippi State. Now, who knows which way it's going to go. But Lamonis and crew still fighting. And it's not about the dollars. They've got the money. We're live in the BankPlus Studio. Out of Bounds. ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Brought to you by the Purple Mattress from any Muskelly Sleep Store.